Hey, what's going on, baseball fans? Thanks for coming out and checking out another episode of the Going Yard podcast. Coming out, I don't know why I said that, but it all makes sense here. So before we get started with this excellent interview, man, we've been waiting to talk to these two for a little while. It's a father and son duo, Gard and Bear Mayer, and they're part of BruceBolt batting gloves. Excellent story, excellent product. But before we talk about that, this episode is brought to you by the Backspin tee. We had Taylor Gardner on last year, talk about that science of hitting. If you haven't checked that out, go back and check it out. But they designed this tee so that the hitter looks at the baseball, changes the way the hitter looks at the baseball. It's developed by a professional coach and award-winning inventors. The Backspin batting tee forces you to focus on the middle and bottom half of the baseball. The middle and bottom half of the baseball, if you didn't know, is the part that professional pitchers don't want you to hit, because hitting that part of the baseball means backspin, which equals distance, and distance creates dingers and champions. So it's an excellent product. What do you think,
I highly recommend it. I've been a big fan of this thing from the beginning. My players that I work with, my daughter, anyone I do any hitting at all with, takes swings off a backspin tee. It is that important. It changes your eyesight. It changes your bat path. Their slogan says it all. On path, bottom half. That is where it's at. That's where you're going to make a living. That's what's going to give you success. So if you don't have one or you've never heard of it, shame on you. Go check it out. Use our promo code. Save some money. Make your kid a better baseball player. Make the kid you coach a better baseball player.
That's right. Just go to backspint.com. Enter the promo code GYP10. Save 10% off. That's the backspint.com. Promo code GYP10. So like we said, we talked to Gard and Bear Mayer of BruceBolt batting gloves. It's excellent story. I mean, it came from just an idea from at the time, I guess he was 15, 16 years old when he had the idea.
Because you need some gas money, my man.
And his dad kept going with it. Hey, you know what? You have this idea. How are you going to make it better? How you going to make the materials better? How are you going to market this? All this stuff, asking all the right questions, and got his son working in the right direction. And now he's 17 years old, and these batting gloves are in the MLB right now. They're overseas. He's doing excellent. They've really been selling it for only about nine months or so.
It's incredible, the amount of work they're putting in, the amount of things they're doing. It's fantastic. Locally, local family run business. It's fantastic. Honestly, it gives me inspiration and hope to continue to keep working even harder at this podcast. Honestly, those are the type of people that drive us to continue to keep doing what we're doing. They're doing so many good things. Their product's fantastic. You won't be disappointed. Make sure, it goes beyond the product too. Just listen to the story. Listen to the connection that they have as father and son and business partners. It's fantastic.
Yep, and the entire family is just, they're all in it together. But enjoy this episode, guys. Make sure you share it with everyone that you know. Hey, Bear and Gard. How you guys doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
We're great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. We've been looking forward to it. We've been following you guys for quite some time now, and so glad we finally have you on the show. It's going to be fun.
We're excited.
Hey, this is Tyler. Appreciate you taking the time. We know you guys got a lot going on. You're busy. It's that time of the year, middle of the summer. It's not easy. So we appreciate you taking time to talk to us and to our listeners and to do this, because it's not always easy for everybody to connect and talk for 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, no problem.
Gard, let's just start with you real quick, honestly, because I think it's going to lead into Bear's story a little bit too as well. But Gard, if you can you talk a little bit about your baseball story growing up and how baseball kind of impacted your life and how you've carried that on over and into being a dad and all that now?
So it's interesting. I was a baseball player for a very short while. I grew up in New Jersey, and it was when lacrosse was taking off. And so I played up through fifth grade and then found this other sport, lacrosse. But I can tell you right now, I think the only reason that happened was because my background in the sports that I really played were hockey. That was really the big sport that I played. And I think the sticks, the fact that they were both stick sports led me that way. But it wasn't until Bear found an interest in baseball that I actually started to appreciate the game and understand it. And frankly, had it to do all over again, I think I would have stuck with being a baseball player. But it just wasn't something that at the time, as a 10-year-old, I understood kind of the nuances and the beauty of the game. So I think, for me, how baseball has really kind of affected my life, the really impactful times have been the last 7 years that I've been with Bear, and really all the time that we spent together on the road, going to tournaments and things like that. I just think it's a wonderful sport.
What are some of the biggest things that you see in it that just like kind of lights you up a little bit? Because I know as a parent, because I played up through high school, and then now watching my kids play, it's taking on another dimension. And now I'm going to be coaching for the first time this year with Tyler. So I appreciate the game so much more now watching my kid play. So what are some of those things you saw as a dad that you were like, okay, this is it?
So I think, for me, as a dad and as an athlete, what really, I think, captured my attention was how much thinking is going into the game. I mean, when you're 10 years old, you're probably not there, or at least I wasn't, and so I didn't appreciate it. But as I started to see Bear kind of move forward and get better as a select player and in these tournaments, I realized just how much of a mental game it was. And then the other thing that I think is incredible about baseball is just they talk about it as being a game of failure and managing failure all the time. And as a tool for life, I really think that baseball forces players into dealing with really, really difficult situations that are hard to maybe appreciate when you're in the moment. But, looking back, I think they teach a lot of life lessons. I mean, in fact, Bear was in a scrimmage last night, and he was the last batter up, right? And he struck out against a kid who was probably hitting low 90s last night. And, for me as a parent, you never want to see him be the last out. But for him, I think he's gone through so many trials and tribulations with the game that it was just one of those things where you just keep on going, keep on working, and he's going to get another at-bat, right? So I think that's what I appreciate the most.
Excellent.
That's awesome because, we all, and I believe this, that, you kind of play a sport, whether it's individual or team, to kind of help develop some skills that can transfer into the rest of your life. I mean, no matter what it is. And you talk about playing hockey and lacrosse or any of those things. But, there's life lessons learned no matter what it is. So what were some of those maybe, Gard, that you took with you now, from playing those sports and into being a parent?
Well, I think, hockey for me, it was one of those things where I absolutely loved the sport. And so for me, there are stories of when I was 3 years old, I used to wake my parents up at 4 o'clock in the morning. They'd take me out to ponds in New Jersey, and they'd turn on, they had this Volkswagen Beetle, and they turn on the lights and they'd let me skate until the sun came up.
Wow.
And it was just one of those things that's all I wanted to do all the time. And I think, the life lessons and then, there are all of the other things where you have to prepare, you have to work. It's working off the ice that's going to make you better in the games. It's not just playing games. And I think that all of those things are very important just as an athlete in general. Mm-hmm. But as a parent, watching, Bear has a little sister as well. You need to also understand that if a kid doesn't love what they're doing, you really shouldn't be forcing them into doing it. And you've got to allow them to choose their path. I mean, frankly, Bear didn't play any sports between the ages of 7 and 10. He played 5, 6, 7, and then he stopped wanting to do sports. And it wasn't until he was 10 years old and I finally said, hey, listen, I don't care if you're not playing sports, but you're going to do something, whether it be play the piano or the guitar or something, that, I realized that if he didn't love what he was doing, it wasn't worth him doing it, but he did have to find passions and things to do in life. And so fortunately, he had a very good friend, Parker Knox, that talked him into coming to a UT baseball camp. And the next thing I knew, I dropped them off. I was watching, and they were calling out where each player was supposed to go, whether they're catchers, outfielders, infielders, and I was kind of figuring out where Bear was going to go. The next thing I see, he walks over to the pitchers group. And I'm sitting there saying, oh, is this kid crazy? He doesn't even play baseball, and he just walked into probably the hardest position in sports, in my opinion.
Right.
And so, but from that day on, I mean, you could just tell there was a passion that Bear had to play this game. And I mean, he was always forcing me to go out and, throw balls with him and pitch with him and do all these things. And so it's that, as a parent, I think it's just so important that your kids love what they're doing, and you have to let them pursue it at their own pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that's a good segue right there. Now, Bear, your dad had just said you started pitching right when you started playing baseball. Let our listeners know who don't know or are not familiar with you. How old are you? What grade are you in right now? And what position you're currently playing?
I'm about to be a senior. I'll be 18 in September. I'm going to be a pitcher and second baseman at my high school, Hyde Park High School in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
Now, Bear, I want to ask, your dad said you played for a little bit, you walked away from it. One, why did you walk away? And two, I know Dad just said that, you said you're going to have to do something. What was it about baseball that I'm going to go back to baseball? I'm not going to go, I'm sure Texas football culture is probably very hard to get away from. Basketball is huge. What was it about, one, why did you walk away? Two, why was it baseball that you came back to?
Well, so originally I walked away just because I lost interest. I didn't really have any interest in playing originally. So I took that long break from it, took a long break from sports. I played a year of lacrosse. It was fun, but then I ended up having a friend my dad mentioned, Parker Knox. I went over to his house one day and he's like, hey, come play baseball. And I was like, why should I do that? And he said, you're going to have a whole bunch of friends playing. You'll get to be on my team. And I was just like, you know what? Why not try it? And from there on, just thought it was great.
Now, what was the biggest what was the hardest thing coming back to the game after a couple years? And I'm sure your friend and a few of those other people had been playing, through those years that you had been away from it. What was the hardest part about coming back to it for you right away? I mean, I heard just heard that you walked out to become a pitcher, which isn't the easiest thing to do at that age. But, short of positionally, what was the hardest part of it coming back to you, after a break?
The hardest part was probably having to just catch up with everybody skill-wise because, they've all been playing the game so long. They've got the hold of things, and I'm just coming in. I'm pretty fresh to it, and just having to catch up with them.
Yeah, understandable. What's funny is we've had a couple of players that we talked to that now either play, either played in the minor leagues for baseball or they're playing in the professional softball leagues who came to the game late. And they kind of had to prove themselves. So, it's a story we're familiar with, and it's great because there's not everyone sticks with it. When they come in late, they're like, it's too much. I have too much catching up to do, so they just drop out. But that's awesome that you stuck with it, and you're going in your senior year, pitching, playing second base. I commend you for that. So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Now, one thing I want to ask, because I want you to share with our listeners. I mean, we got a lot of listeners in Texas. We got a lot of listeners in California. Talk a little bit, Bear, about the baseball culture down there, because baseball is huge. It's a year-round sport. You got Texas A&M, you got Texas Tech, you got TCU, you go down Sam Houston State, Dallas Baptist. I mean, college baseball is heaven in the state of Texas. But what's the culture like down there overall for baseball, growing up doing it?
I mean, baseball's just all over the place. You can't really get away from it. It's just everywhere you go, everyone's just baseball, baseball, baseball. All the kids are developing quicker just because it's always being pressed on them to be baseball players. I mean, it's the same thing with football, but, I mean, it's pretty equal. Baseball's being pushed just as much as football is. It's just pretty intense.
I think I can talk about it. What I find interesting is just it is a year-round sport now, and when I was growing up, sports definitely had their seasons, and it seems like at a very early age, players are somewhat forced into picking a sport. And I don't necessarily think that that's right. But at the same time, baseball, the professionalism that you find from the coaches and the organizations that are around here, it at least takes into account the fact that you do need downtime a little bit where they're resting, it might be fall ball, but a lot of times these fall ball seasons become a lot less intense. And I think that I appreciate that the fact that while, I still think there's a lot of pressure to play year round, that the organizations are starting to kind of come to grips with the fact that you can't push these players all year round because otherwise their bodies start to break down.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I don't know who wants to start with this question. You guys are right next to each other, so it's a little better. You don't have to worry about talking over each other. But I want to know, how did BruceBolt Batting Gloves, how did that company start? How did the idea happen? And also, how did you come up with the idea for the name?
So, starting with how it happened, started when I first turned 16. All I wanted was a car because I could drive finally. My dad got me this 1993 Land Cruiser.
Nice.
Which Bear had to pay half of. That was the deal. He had to come up with half the money, and I'd match him.
So that happens, right? I'm a week into driving this tank of a car, and I get home from school one day, and I'm like, Dad, I need money. I gotta go get gas. And he goes, Where are you gonna get that money? I was like, you? And he goes, no, you're not. And I'm like, then how am I supposed to get this? He goes, you either got to get a job or you got to do something. So I started thinking about how I'm going to get a job. But when I really thought about it, I was like, I got baseball, I got school, I got all this stuff going on. I can't really handle that. So he brought up the idea of maybe starting my own business. Then he asked me, what's something that I love? Of course, I said baseball. Then he said, what's something in the game that needs to change? I said, batting gloves, because they're always ripping and tearing on me. So that's where the idea for this whole thing came together.
Wow.
Now, that's a little scary in a way. I mean, so you have this idea. I mean, I got all kinds of ideas, and thank goodness I don't react to many of them. But, you have this idea. Gard, tell me what your initial reaction is. You say batting gloves. I mean, you could go to the local store and buy, any pair. So, Gard, what is your, as the dad here, your son throws this idea out there. What's your initial reaction to it, and where does it go from there then?
I think the first thing that I asked was, what's going to be different about yours? And he said that he would make a better batting glove that wasn't going to rip or tear. And so then the next question was, well, how? But the reaction, when I thought about it, and I know how many batting gloves we've paid for, and I think he came up with the idea because he just recently bought a pair of batting gloves that ripped within like 3 weeks, and he paid $45 for them.
Yeah,
and which we hear all the time now that we've been in the business. And so, fortunately for him, he has a little bit of a leg up in that my background is in product development for ice hockey products. And so I kind of understood the overall process and on how to develop a product and how to source materials and do all of those things. And I also, after 20 years of doing this, had some pretty strong opinions on how to develop a product and what to do in terms of making a product great that people were going to buy and would differentiate him from every other product on the market.
I love that. I want to just back up just a little bit, because when Bear was talking about, hey, I need money for gas, and you said, well, how are you going to get that money? I think you probably had the ears of every parent listening to this right now, of a teenage boy or girl, just light up, because that's excellent. I love that. And the other thing I also love is you ask a lot of questions. Like when he says, I want to do this, well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to do this. And well, how is that going to be different? It's excellent. The art of asking questions. It's amazing how far you can get by asking questions and asking yourself the questions too. That helps, figure out what you want to do. I just wanted to say that I thought that was pretty neat.
Well, I appreciate that.
Now, one thing I want to ask, and probably more specifically to Bear right now on this one, is what's one thing, Bear, from playing the game of baseball, you're involved with it a lot, very heavily influences your life. What's one of those things, and maybe it's two or three, that you take from playing the game that you apply to helping start this business and get it up off the ground and get it going?
One of the main things I would take is that there's going to be a lot of failure, but you just got to keep working through it. It's just like my dad said earlier, striking out. You just got to look forward to the next at bat.
Now, did you have a lot of failures in the development of it? Did you have a lot of mock-ups?
there's a lot of stuff that we had to get right through designing the gloves and getting them made and produced, and it's just a lot of ups and downs to where we finally got.
I mean, one of the things that we have on our hashtags is be better. And so the idea on that was not only to try and be better than all the other batting gloves that are out there, but in every aspect of the business, we try to just be better. And so there's things like operationally, how are we going to do things? How do we package things? How do we, when we send a product and send it out, Bear writes a personal message in there, and we keep on doing that until maybe there's too many that we get in a day that it's not possible to do anymore. But at that point, it's not there yet. But the idea of just trying to be better, and every single time we see an opportunity to do something better, we take advantage of it. And I think that's really a mantra that we've been trying to follow.
Now, when it comes to how the product's made and the design, what do you think sets apart your glove from the other gloves?
Well, so when we originally made the gloves, I wanted to be different in a way other than they don't just tear. So the long cuff design that we have that extends down your wrist?
Yes.
That was actually my original design that I put together. I just wanted something for more wrist support because say I was playing a position in the game that I'd get pulled in the pitch, I'd have to unwrap all this tape from my wrist.
Right.
So that would get really annoying, and really the main thing I wanted it for was when I was up to bat so my wrist didn't break. So the idea behind the longer wrist strap was acting as tape around your wrist.
Yeah, I think, one of the great things about this process is just really seeing Bear take responsibility for it. And when, I heard this one story that he told me because he was in school working on his computer, designing the glove, that a friend came up behind him, Hayden Esterac, if I remember correctly, who came up behind him and asked what he was doing, and he told him what it was all about. He said, well, I want to be a part of it. And so there's these fun stories of seeing this 16-year-old kind of mature into being a young adult and kind of just, growing as a manager or owner of a business. I think, some of the things that I would say about our product that makes it different, not only is it the design, the long cuff design especially, but the things that I've learned and I've tried to teach Bear are that there are three parts to business. And you hear it there's a show called The Profit too. He says it all the time, and it's something I've been saying for years, is that every great business has three things, and the three P's he refers to them as, and it's people, product, and process. And then for me, when you look at product, there's three other things that you can do to make sure that you're always great. And that is the materials, the design, and the craftsmanship. And so one of the things that I told Bear when he had said and come back to me, saying, well, I want to make a better glove. And, I asked how. When we started looking into it, I said, listen, if we choose the best materials, if we really concentrate and think about the design, and if we've got the best craftsmanship, I said, we'll be able to sell it. We don't have to worry about what it costs because people will be willing to pay whatever price it's worth.
Right.
And so the reality is that our gloves right now probably cost more. Well, not probably. I know they cost more to make than most gloves sell at retail. But because we have 100% guarantee, 100% satisfaction guarantee on our product, and because it's got the best materials and craftsmanship and design, we feel that people are willing to buy it. And what we didn't really, or what I didn't personally think of, maybe Bear did, and sometimes he's way ahead of me, is that the people that this product really appealed to most are the players at the highest levels of the game. And so I couldn't believe when we started this and just got it on the internet, within the first 3 or 4 weeks of posting things on Instagram, Bear started getting DMs, as I know them now, and I always forget about it, but he started getting DMs from like pro players, legitimate guys that had either been playing in the majors or were on their way up, etc., asking to get samples and see them and try them and buy them and everything else. And I'd say, every single day, we already had 2 people today that were minor league players, high-level minor league players, ask, how can I become affiliated with it? How can I be an ambassador, etc. And so it's been really cool to see how making a real quality product appeals to the best players in the game.
That's fantastic, and that's what being in business is all about. Obviously, we've moved slightly far away from, in a short amount of time from needing gas money now to having professional people getting paid to wear your stuff. What's that transition been like over this? I mean, nothing happens overnight. But this has been, a pretty successful thing pretty quickly. So, what's that transition been like in, say, the past 18 months to 2 years?
Bear's pointing at me, so I'll take this one. But it's so here's what I would say is that I am surprised by the trajectory of this we really started selling in September of 2018, and to go from literally no brand name or nobody knew our brand name, nobody knew our product, et cetera, to where we are today, where we've got, 3 MLB players right now, and we're talking to several different sports agencies about other players, marquee players that would like to wear our glove next season. It's really blowing me away. But I think the thing that I like most, and that to me makes me feel like this is going to be a really, really successful company, is how many emails that we get and how many direct messages we get from parents and players thanking us for what we're doing with our product, but then also telling us that they really, really respect the company that we're building because we're standing behind the product. And we've probably sold a lot of gloves in 9 months, and we've only had probably about 30 returns on our gloves, which makes me really proud because it just goes to show you the quality and the craftsmanship is working and the materials are working. And the funny thing is they're getting returned not because of the leather ripping, and something which happens. It happens, but mostly it's because one thing that we overlooked was some of the stitching that we had. We didn't use, the highest quality stitching because we just didn't think about it. But it's something that we've already fixed, and now it's not happening anymore.
Right. That's awesome. Bear, if you could do me a favor, I've seen so many awesome videos of watching games and seeing MLB players wear your gloves, and they bring it up, they talk about it. Can you name drop a few of those players and the coolest experience so far as a business owner, as a 17-year-old teenager who started this business? What's some of those coolest moments that's happened so far since this has all come about in the last 9 months, really?
Well, so the coolest moment, like from the very beginning, when we got our first player in the majors to even put on our batting gloves, which was on the Marlins. Blanking on his name right now. Do you remember? Oh, Peter O'Brien. He wore them in spring training, and it was maybe the greatest thing ever. We were just sitting there watching on the computer, and all of a sudden Peter O'Brien gets up to bat wearing our gloves, and we just started freaking out. So that's one of the coolest moments. And you got Terrence Gore started wearing them.
Who's one of the fastest guys in the league.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the nicest and best guys. People should follow him just because he's such a good guy.
But then you got our pitchers on the Marlins. You got Lopez and
Richards
and Trevor Richards who are wearing them, it's awesome. We got to see them pitch, and then they get up to bat and they've got the bolts on. But probably the coolest moment so far was actually last night. I'm playing in my doubleheader, and I went out to go get a foul ball, and my dad called me over, and there's actually a kid who recognized my dad because he was wearing a BruceBolt shirt and was asking him all about the gloves, and he actually had a pair. And so he was talking to us the whole time about how much he loves the company, and I just thought it was really cool how we've reached as many people as we have, and that someone who I didn't even know recognized who we were. And I just thought that was really cool.
Incredible.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was funny because I had the shirt on, and the person came up to me and said, "Hey, that's a great," and I had gloves in my hand too, and he goes, "That's a great product." And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, I said, you're familiar with it?" He said, "Yeah, my kid has a pair." He goes, "Let me tell you the story." He said he had them for about 3.5 months. They tore sliding into second, and my son contacted him on Instagram and said, "Hey, I loved your gloves. Unfortunately, they tore on me, and, I don't have the money to buy a new pair yet. And he said, but you're never going to believe it. One of the owners answered back and said, you know what? That's not right. Give us your address. We'll give you a new pair. And he said, when my son came and told me that, I told him we'll never use another batting glove ever again.
Wow.
Because we're always going to use BruceBolt. And then I said, well, it's funny that you say that, because one of those owners happens to either be me or the third baseman right now. And he said, you guys are the owners? And it was almost as if Bear and I were instant celebrities. And I can relate to what Bear is saying, is that it's incredible to see guys wear them in the pros. And it is so much fun to kind of hear our name on TV and everything. But I've had two experiences now, and Bear's had this one where at tournaments, people have recognized the brand, come up to us and just started telling us about what a great product it is. And that's very, very fulfilling.
There's nothing like, and no matter what, nothing like homegrown business, local, buy local, stay local, that type of mindset, that type of thinking is what's impactful. That's fantastic. Now, one thing I want to jump off of here is you're talking about little local stuff. Is I know you've done a lot of work internationally, and you've done some charity stuff. Can you guys just touch a little bit? I don't know, Bear, Gard, I don't know which one of you wants to really speak to it, but can you talk a little bit about some of the international stuff you've done and some of the charity work that you're kind of doing to spread the word and help other underdeveloped places that maybe don't have the resources that we do here in the United States?
So I'll take this one. So to address the first question, the international work is really, we don't even know how that happened. It just suddenly there were Japanese players and Korean players that were buying our gloves. And frankly, they were buying our gold cuff gloves or our gold series gloves, which are the most expensive gloves that we sell. And, in fact, they bought all of the gold series long cuff gloves that we have on the site. And we just have been getting orders that we're shipping overseas. And it's really incredible to see that there's that much reach. But I guess that's what the internet does. But that hasn't really been through any doing of our own. As far as the charity work is concerned, one of the things that I wanted to teach Bear in developing this business and having had my own business is that there were two things. Number one, you have to be profitable. And sometimes people in today's environment think that profit is bad and corporations are bad. But the reality is that profit keeps a business alive. It helps employ new people. It helps to invest in research and development to make better products. And so that was one thing I was really concerned in teaching him. And then the second part of it, and something that I've learned over the last 20 years of owning businesses, is how important it is to give back. And so while we were developing this and working on designs and things like that, Bear and I had a lot of different conversations about all of those things. And one of the constant conversations we had were, how can we give back, and how can we impact, players that might not be as fortunate as Bear or, our family is. And so I showed Bear a number of different companies that I think everybody's familiar with, but as a 17-year-old, he's kind of learning about more and more, which were Tom's shoes, Warby Parker, Bono's socks, etc., where they all had these programs where if you buy a pair of something, that they were donating a pair. Now, unfortunately for us, I kind of explained the cost of our product, and it costs a lot. And so for us to be able to give away the exact product that we had isn't feasible. But at the same time, we were able to make really good, high quality, what we call starter gloves that are really comparable to most of the gloves that are out there, that you could buy at retail at a Dick's or an what was it? Academy, excuse me, Bear's looking at me. I want to say Amazon, but that we were going to be able to give back. And so we chose the RBI program that we, had learned about and become familiar with. But really specifically, we chose the RBI Boston program because it was something that we could do locally and impact the community around us. And so for every pair of the Natural Series gloves that we sell, we are actually donating a pair of starter gloves to a player in the RBI program.
That's fantastic, and again, I commend you guys for doing that. And Bear, you're learning an awesome lesson from your dad there, and I think what you guys are doing is incredible. I do want to ask this. We're kind of on the same line of questioning here. Can you talked about a couple of the styles. Can you talk about the styles, the size ranges, and also where your price range is from low to high, just so people get an idea of what you have and how much they would be spending?
So the highest price glove we have is $150, and that's the Gold Series gloves that we have. There's a long cuff and a short cuff. The long cuff's $150, the short cuff is $125. But then really our main gloves, and the only reason that they're priced that high, just for the customers listening, it's because of availability. We only made we make everything in small batches, but for those we only made 30 pairs. Right. And so those are all adult gloves. There are 30 pairs. And so if you buy a pair of those, you're one of 30 people in the world that have them. And anybody that's listening here in the U.S., if you buy them, you're probably one of 2 people that have them in the U.S. because all of them were the ones that were going overseas to Japan and Korea. Those are the ones they were buying. So there's that. But really the main product line that we have is we have our original series and our natural series. The original series just happens to be our white and black or black and white gloves. And those are the first ones that we came out with because those colors work with most uniforms. And those sell for $89.99 for the long cuff and $69.99 for our short cuff. And then our natural series gloves are $99.99 for the long cuff and $79.99 for the short cuff. And the difference on the natural series is that they're an actual natural tan leather color. And so they're really different from anything else that's out there. And it just costs a little bit more to actually get that color when you're processing the leather. Gotcha. And that's the price difference there. Otherwise, all of those gloves are the same. And now we're really happy to say we actually just got the last batch in 2 days ago. Those come from adult XXL all the way down to youth small now.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, to cover that much of the spectrum, because a lot of times some of the stuff that's in those price ranges only is directed to a certain market. So that's very nice that you could cover everything. One thing I did want to ask, and I'm not sure, how much you can get into it, but where did you find the leather that these gloves are made out of? Because I think that's interesting, because leather on baseball gloves is one thing, but leather for the batting gloves is something that's totally different. So how did that come about for you, and what made you choose that specific one, compared to maybe what's on the shelf at the Dick's Sporting Goods?
So we researched together what materials most batting gloves are being made out of. And we've learned there's this story that about 15 years ago, there was, for whatever reason, there was a real increase in the price of Cabretta leather. And as a result, a lot of batting gloves started using synthetic leathers and also lycras and other types of materials. And the story that they gave people was that they were trying to create higher performance batting gloves. But the reality that we were hearing from insiders was that it was because the price of leather had gone up so much. And so Cabretta leather is available in most golf gloves, right? But you're only buying one golf glove, and the leather is very, very thin. So it doesn't cost that much to make a golf glove compared to making a pair of batting gloves out of Cabretta leather. And so in addition to the fact, what we said was we wanted something that wasn't going to fail. And so the Cabretta leather that we use is very hard to come by because Cabretta leather is basically sheepskin. And sheepskin tends to be very thin. And so we only take 0.9 millimeter or above Cabretta leather for our gloves, which makes it even more expensive because it's not widely available. And that's why we have to do everything in small batches. And that's why, because we get a lot of people that are asking, well, when's the next batch coming? Well, frankly, we've got to find batches of leather where the skin is thick enough to be used on our gloves. And so that was the driving force behind the materials that we chose and why our gloves are lasting as long as they do. And the thing that we tell, the reason our gloves cost so much is because we have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, no questions asked on them. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to rip, but it means that if you don't feel like they perform for the amount of money that you paid, we're going to make it right. Whether that means giving you a discount on your next purchase, whether it means giving you a new pair, no questions asked, or any other myriad of options that we give. So that's one reason. But the second reason is that it's the highest quality leather in the world, and it lasts 2 to 3 times longer than any other batting glove that's out there.
That's awesome. And one thing I want to ask, because I think it's important, and it's maybe not something too many people think about, but I'm sure Bear does, because I'm sure he's probably very meticulous with these things. Now that it's his product, it's his name, it's his his business. What about taking care of them? I'm sure you just don't take $100 and some pair of batting gloves, ball them up, throw them in your bag, and act like it's no big deal. What would you say is the best way to maintain and take care of these things so that they can perform and that you don't have issues as a player with them?
So, as of a couple months ago, we actually started selling our gloves in bags. And so what I do with this bag, and what most players that I've actually talked to do with this bag, is after the game, they take their batting gloves and you just lay them flat inside the bag and zip them up. And it actually helps with getting rid of any moisture that's left in the gloves, stops them from crinkling or anything. And I mean, they don't get crusty in there. So it's a nice way to keep them good for the next game. And then I also like to, just like you put leather conditioner on a mitt, I put it on my batting gloves.
Good tip. That's awesome. Awesome. Bear, let's stick with you for a second here. I want to know, all right, so you're 17, you're going into your senior year. I know what I was doing when I was 17 in my senior year. How do you keep school, baseball, in this business? How do you balance all of them and still become successful in every aspect of it?
So during the school year, it was baseball, and just school. So
Yeah, how about school?
yeah, there was school there too. But
That gets in the way of everything, doesn't it?
School is just a very little part. But there was a lot of that, so I wasn't really able to focus as much on it. But I got a lot of help from my family. I had my dad working on a lot of it. My mom's been helping with a lot. I guess you'd say my sister helped out a lot. She would get her friends at school to start talking about the gloves. So, it was just it's been a whole family thing.
That's great.
I think this summer he's had a lot more time. Go ahead.
This summer I've had a lot more time just because I'm not having to focus on all my schoolwork. My summer ball schedule is a lot lighter than last year, which is really nice because I get all the time I need to work on this business, and then I get to finish my day with baseball. So it's really nice.
Now, one thing, Gard, I want to ask you, because you've been in the business and sports, products for a long while. What's the impact of social media? I know you probably use that to reach out to players reach out to you. But how important is social media now in a business model, especially specifically like a small business like you guys have and what you're doing?
So before we started this company, I was familiar with social media, but I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on any of this stuff. And so really Bear led that charge. And I have to tell you, the other business that I have is a hockey related product goods company, and 99% of our sales are through retail. So we sell to retailers and they sell to the general public. It's the opposite with BruceBolt. I would say that 99% of our sales right now are through our website, and 99% of that traffic is coming from Instagram. And really, Bear has been a genius in how he's handled it. And at least from my perspective, maybe there's things that he's not doing right, but I cannot believe the amount of communication that happens between our customers and Bear and me now, because I have to help out where I can. Just the amount of engagement that goes on, the number of questions that we get, the amount of sales that we get because we explain, more about the gloves. And it's just really, I think it's absolutely changing the direct to consumer. Well, I think direct to consumer is going to be the future of brands like BruceBolt, where you don't necessarily have to be in retail in order to be a successful brand and to get recognition and to make sales, which is really better because that way you get to control your interactions and your experiences with the customers.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool, man. I tell you what, just from doing this podcast just for a little while, it's amazing how it works. And when you got a product like you have, it's something that obviously it's well made. and you guys market it well. Now it's like with social media, you got these baseball players using it. You know, while you're watching TV, you see them right in front of you, and it's just amazing. Kind of sells itself now. It's pretty neat. So you know, social media could be a curse or it could be a blessing. It depends on how you use it. You guys are definitely using it the right way. So you know, that's awesome. And on that note, what are some of your goals? Why don't you guys both tell us some of your 3 to 5 year goals with BruceBolt? You know, you talk about any possible ideas for different products, maybe too. I mean, do you have any products in the pipeline that you can talk about? What are some of those goals you guys both have?
Well, so for products we have in the pipeline, we actually have August 15th, we're getting our first batch of arm sleeves.
Ooh.
So they're white and black, or one's white, just like our original series gloves. We're starting with white and black. And they're medical grade compression, so it's nothing like an arm sleeve that you get in the store. This is actually, it fits kind of like how I've heard it described, a sock around your arm. And I mean, I think it's great. All my friends that are using it think it's great, and so we're really excited for it.
Yeah, Bear came up with this idea. He said, "Dad, let's make some sleeves." And so we started doing some research together, and we looked at all the different sleeves that are out there. And for the most part, all of them are Lycra sleeves that are more for decoration than any type of utility. And so we started looking into different industries, and we found what's called graduated medical grade compression materials. And we started to do a little bit of research on them. And what we learned was that this graduated compression, which means that it's tighter at the wrist than it is on the up near the shoulder, it will actually the pressure that it puts on your arteries actually dilates the arteries by 40%, and it constricts the veins, which means that you get more blood flow through that limb than if you didn't have it on or if you were using just a normal arm sleeve. And the result of that is that because of that blood flow, you're getting more oxygen and nutrients to the arm while you're wearing it, which makes your arm actually feel more alive. The second part of that is that when you have this medical grade compression, because your arteries are dilated, it actually feels like there's a cooling effect that's happening on your arm, even when it's really, really hot. And when you feel this material, you wouldn't think so, but it's really amazing. And then the third aspect of why we made it out of medical grade was because it's so tight that it reduces the vibrations that happen to your muscles, your tendons, and your bones in the throwing motion, which actually helps protect, especially younger players. It helps protect that arm and, reduce the occurrence of injury. We're not saying that it reduces it 100%, but it certainly helps.
That's awesome. I mean, innovative, and productive, and protection, even at the slightest degree, is a benefit. I love it. I honestly, I think that's fantastic. And I mean, one thing I'm sitting here, and we're in the Mid-Atlantic area. We don't get beautiful weather like you kind of have in Texas. I've coached high school baseball. It's quite miserable. One recommendation that we don't have up here is a pair of batting gloves that a coach can use to actually use for infield, outfield for warming up for games. Because I tell you, you wear these big thermal gloves to coach in March and April. It's miserable. You can't grip the bat, the fungo. You can't hit anything. You got to take them off. Your hands are numb by the time you're done. I'm just putting it out there for you to think about. Like us poor guys here in the Northeast, we need some coaches. We need to keep our hands warm and keep them stylish, Bear. We need some of that teenage flair with some of that grown dad comfort.
We hear you. That's a good idea.
No. And honestly, I just want to jump on the goals here. And what for you is in the marketing side of it, what's one of the things you want to kind of push? And is it doing more things on Facebook or Instagram, or is there other avenues in the digital market kind of that you want? Is it Amazon or any of those things that you want to reach into? Is it getting into box stores like that, or is it just kind of more of what you've been doing and that personal connection between owners and customers?
So I would say, you brought up marketing. I think we talk about social marketing now all the time, and I've been doing a lot of research into it now that I've seen how successful or the success that we've had in growing kind of our audience. So for the first thing, I would love, our goal would be by the end of this year to have 10,000 followers. And by the end of 2020, I really think that the goal would be to have 100,000 followers. I think when you've got an audience, and they have to be real baseball players, we hear a lot about people that get these big following or groups, or they have large groups of followers, but they're not necessarily specific to your target audience. And I think that's really the thing is, Bear's been really effective in communicating as a 17-year-old to other people that are our target demographic, which are really those select players that start at 12 and, play all the way through college and make it to the minor leagues and hopefully pro. And so as long as we're having that conversation with those types of players, that would be one goal, is to get to 10,000 and ultimately 100,000 by 2020, because I think it really helps us then to reach some of the other goals that we have. And so as far as a product lineup is concerned, we'd like to have 5 products that are out there by the end of 2020. And without going into any of our strategy, we're going to kind of leave that alone. But, Bear let on that we're going to have a sleeve on the 15th of August. And then early this next spring, we're going to have hopefully 2 to 3 other products that we'll be able to market. And they all kind of fall in line with what it is that we're doing. They're very, very high quality, high performance products that are going to make you or hopefully help make you a better player, but also products that you can definitely depend on. And then, from a really high level, I just hope that we're in business in 3 years, because 95% of all businesses fail. So
right.
Within 3 years. And, I think that we're on the right path. I have enough experience in running businesses now that I know a lot of the pitfalls. One of the things that I've been very conscious with Bear about is that after the initial loan that I gave him, everything that we've done, we've had a cash flow through revenue that's been coming in through the sale of our product. And so as long as we stay within our means, I don't think we're going to get into any trouble that way. And I do think that we're going to be a company that's going to be here for 15, 20 years from now, or hopefully forever. I mean, I think this is something he and I are having a lot of fun doing together, and I hope that it stays that way. And then last but not least, I think the biggest thing is that we hope to have a marquee player signed up using our gloves in the 2020 season.
And if I'm gonna be quicker with it, I'm not gonna take 20 minutes. But I'd say the goal is just to be better. Let's go and be the best there is. So that's probably my main goal.
Oh my god!
And then with all of his stuff, but I'm not gonna repeat all of that.
It's probably a little more eloquent than I am.
That is excellent. Well, I got a question for both of you. Normally, the question I ask on this part is usually, hey, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be? I'm gonna ask you two the same question but differently. So, Gard, for you, I'd like you to tell us, if you could go back and talk to your 17-year-old self and tell yourself anything, what would it be? And for Bear, if you could tell anything to those 15, 16, 17-year-old teenagers that are listening to this right now, if you can tell them anything about pursuing something that you believe in, what would that thing be? So if you both want to take some time and talk about that.
So if I go first, I would tell myself to do the things and be with the people that you love, because life is short, and you definitely you want to spend as much time as you can doing and being with people and things that you love. And then the other thing that I would say, just to be quick, is invest in rental properties and real estate. That's it.
That's really good. Love it.
Yep.
All right, Bear, what about you?
Well, what I would say is, if you've got a goal or a passion, pursue it. I mean, you only live so long. If there's something you love, just go for it. I mean, there might be some ups and downs with it, but eventually you're gonna find something you love and just keep with it.
That's awesome. Bear, that's awesome, because I can't imagine some of maybe the teenage pressure, some of the teenage jokes or things that people say, behind your back, or, even just whispering it, doubting you, trying to discredit you, pushing through all that crap and blocking it all out and doing what you love is fantastic, man. That's what it's all about, honestly. And, just doing what you're doing, I think, and growing the way that you're growing, you're just going to leave all those people behind you and in the dust, and continue on to bigger and better things as you move forward. If you can, both of you, I want to give you each a chance here. If you could recommend one person for the Going Yard podcast to reach out to and have as a guest, who is that you think that would be, whether it's a player or a coach or somebody else that you know that you work with in the business world, maybe now on the baseball side, that could provide content to our listeners and maybe has a great story to tell?
I would say Trey Hillman. He's a good family friend of ours. He's one of the first people to get me to fall in love with the sport. He's just an all-around great guy. He's currently the first base coach for the Marlins. He's probably got a couple of good stories for y'all.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Bear and I talked about this, and so we were unanimous in this decision. And Trey Hillman, just in the brief amount of time that we've known him for about 8 years, and frankly, most of the time he's away coaching, and we basically, since Bear's been 11, you get to see him 1 or 2 days in the off season, but he doesn't. I can't emphasize enough what an incredible human being he is, and someone that even I as a grown adult look up to emulate. He's just been incredible for Bear and for me, and Bear kind of really undersold him. He's been the manager for the Kansas City Royals. He was bench coach for the Dodgers, bench coach for the Astros. He's now first base coach for the Marlins. But in addition to that, he also was manager, and I think the first and only American ever to win in the Japanese professional league for the Nippon Hand Fighters. And then recently he just won the championship in Korea with the SK Wyverns. And so if he can figure out a way to get a manager's position back in the MLB and win that, I guess he'll be the only person ever in the world, the history of the world, to win the championships in all 3 major professional leagues.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good guest. I like that one.
And I'll tell you what, he's salt of the earth, one of the most down to the earth human beings and most unassuming people that you'll ever meet. But at the same time, when you're around him, you realize that you're in the presence of somebody that's a little bit different.
Awesome. Well, hey, put the bug in his ear. We'd love to reach out to him and have him on the show. That would be awesome. That's a excellent guest idea. I mean, I love it.
We'll absolutely do that. And I'll tell you what, if you take a look at every single organization that he's been around and watch and take a look at what happened within 1 to 2 years after he left, almost every single one of them has won a championship. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, the guy is one of those different people. And so we'll certainly put a bug in his ear and we'll tell him about tonight and the fact that you guys like to talk with him.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, we greatly appreciate that. I mean, honestly, it's been that question's been huge for us connecting people and going from one interview to the next, honestly. So thank you. One thing that we like to do, is kind of just leave the floor to you guys. If there's any topics that you want to bring up or any talking points that maybe we didn't bring up in the interview, this is your opportunity to just kind of say whatever you want to say about the product, about the business, about the game of baseball, whatever it may be. This is your chance for both of you to let that out right now.
So I think you guys have done a great job in asking us a lot of great questions. And for me personally, for anybody here that's listening, and anybody that knows about the brand and has been supporting us, all I want to do is just say thank you, because it's been really incredible. This last 9 months that Bear and I have been working on this with my wife and Bear's sister, Jolie, it's been a blessing, and we feel very, very fortunate that we've been able to do this and that it's been received so positively. And so it's just great to have that positive energy around something that you're doing. And I'm very, very appreciative and feel blessed. And so I think that's what I'd like to say.
What I have to say is just it's incredible all the new experiences that I'm getting out of this. I mean, just being able to say as a 17-year-old, the product that I came up with is making it the places that it's going. And I don't know, just seeing this take off right in front of my eyes is pretty awesome.
Not bad.
Now, we got just a couple questions here. This one, I think is kind of important. And for anybody who wants some more information about the product, about you guys, where can they find you on social media? I know we talk about Instagram and Facebook and stuff. What are those, those handles, and where can they find you? What's the website if they want to go make a purchase or check out and see some pictures and stuff about the product if they haven't seen it yet?
So our Instagram is BruceBolt.us. It's the same thing as our website. And Facebook and Twitter are the exact same thing. It's just BruceBolt.us.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate this. We have one more question for you guys. And we kept you a lot longer than we thought because your story is fantastic. It's an absolute... It's an American dream right there, what you guys are doing right now for America's pastime, and I think it's excellent. So hope you don't mind. We kept you a little longer than we thought. But this is one of my favorite questions here. Bear, we'll go with you, bud. If you had one MLB at bat, what song would you choose for your walk-up song?
Probably have to be Big Green Tractor by Jason Aldean.
And why are you picking that song?
I when I started playing baseball again, the only music that was ever played when I started playing select ball was country music, and that was one of the first songs I ever heard. It's just stuck with me.
I think it was his first number one hit too, man. Excellent choice. You guys are fantastic. I can't wait to catch up with you down the road. We wish you the best of luck in everything you're doing, and we're going to keep watching and seeing where this takes you because this is really exciting for us to watch as well.
Well, we appreciate it so much. We're big fans, and thanks for giving us the chance to talk to our audience. It's been to your audience. It's been really great, and we feel very fortunate.
Absolutely.
Thank you both. We really appreciate it. I'm so excited for the future for both of you and the family, honestly, because it's a family effort. So keep up the fantastic work. And honestly, in 2020 and 2021, we can't wait to catch back up with you guys and see everything that you have going on and successes that you're having.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
And out to the pasture, long as I'm with you, it really don't matter. Climb up in my lap and drive if you want to, girl. You know you got.
Well, if that is not a story of inspiration, man, love it. On my big green tractor, love it.
Ain't nothing more Texas than that song, is it?
Woo! Yeah, man, it's fantastic. I love it. I love that story. It was great. Couldn't wait to have them on.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I didn't even know how young he was until the MLB game we were watching. I can't remember who it was that was talking about his glove. It was the commentator. And when he said he was 17 years old, I'm like, what?
I know. It's mind-blowing, honestly. So, if there's nothing that makes you feel any older than hearing that sometimes. But no, fantastic stuff. Honestly, great work ethic. Man, the sky's the limit. Honestly, I mean, when you're that, when you have that much forward thinking, and that much want to, it just transcends everything, man. It carries over in everything you do.
Yeah, and it sounds like he's got great parents to push him along. Whole family effort there. His sister. It's
sounds like
awesome.
the sister should get some love too, though.
Yeah, I think so.
Shouldn't get left out.
No, it was awesome. All right, so if you guys want to find us online, you can find us all things social media at Going Yard Podcast, except for that pesky old Twitter GYP Podcast on there. And if you like what we're doing week in and week out, and you want to support what we do, just go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/GoingYardPodcast.
Yeah, Twitter, one more character, baby. You can find all of those links on our website, Going Yard Podcast. You can also Google us, Going Yard Podcast, and we'll come up there as well. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, or Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcasts at. Leave us a 5-star review if you could, so we can climb those podcast rankings.
That's right, and that's a wrap for this episode. So for Gard and Bear Mayer and BruceBolt and all of us here at the Going Yard Podcast, I'm Dan.
And I'm Tyler. See ya.
Later.